Hello, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Rotondi, and I am going to be reviewing Elapsed Time with you today. You have to forgive me for using my phone. I don't have a document camera that works to connect to my computer because my document camera from school is 1,000 years old. So I'm going to be writing on this paper here, which is notes from online that I printed out that we have linked into the Parents Materials Guide for this week. And excuse the cardboard as well. I don't want to get marker on the tablecloth. But anyway, let's begin. So when we are doing elapsed time, we need to remember that there are three things that you have to know in order to answer an elapsed time problem. The first thing is you need to know the start time. Okay, so that's the time that your activity is starting. Like maybe when we go to school on a regular day, we start at 7:45. So that would be our start time. The end time is also something we need to know. So what time does your activity end? Maybe you went to the movies and it was over at 5:30. So that would be your end time. Then finally, we have our elapsed time. So elapsed time is just how long is it from the start of your event to the end of your event. That's the elapsed time. So in third grade, we are only going to be doing elapsed time to the nearest hour. So you don't have to worry about minutes. And we're going to do it within 12-hour increments. So we won't be crossing 12 o'clock midnight or 12 o'clock noon when we do these. So these are going to be pretty simple problems to introduce you to elapsed time, and then you'll get into a little bit more complicated problems once you get to fourth grade. So some tips to help you with finding the elapsed time. You can build a table to help you organize what you know based on a given problem. And use a number line to help you count the hours. All right, so I'm going to walk you through some example problems. On this first page, we have one of each of the three main types of problems you're going to see for elapsed time. One is where the end time is missing. One is where the elapsed time, or how long the event took, is missing. And the other, this one's kind of the tricky one here, is when the start time is missing. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll start with number one, where our end time is missing. And this problem says, what is the end time if the start time is 1:15 in the afternoon and the elapsed time is 6 hours? So you can see here we put together a table, just like it says in our notes, to help us organize the information. So we have start time, the elapsed time, and the end time. So for this one, the start time, it does give us that information, 1:15, and we put PM because it says in the afternoon. And the elapsed time tells us that is 6 hours, so we put that in our chart. That means the piece that we're missing is the end time. So we can figure that out by using a number line. Now it looks like one of my times got a little shifted over from some reason, but that's okay. So what I did was I made a number line here, and I knew that my event started at 1:15. So we've got 1:15 at the start of our number line. And then we know that our elapsed time is going to be 6 hours. So we're going to have to jump 1 hour each jump for 6 jumps and see where we end up at the end. So what I would do if I'm making this timeline, I've already done this example one for you here, but if I were writing this from scratch, I would have put this mark here for 1:15 and written 1:15 under that. And then I would have made my 6 jumps, but I wouldn't have written all these times in yet. I would just say 1, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. And I stop there because I know my elapsed time is 6 hours. Then once I figure out where I'm stopping here, I can fill in my time. So I started at 1:15. 1 hour later is going to be 2:15, 3:15, 4:15, 5:15, 6:15, and then we end at 7:15. So our answer to this problem is that the event is ending at 7:15 p.m. And that could go in our chart as well. All right, so we just put in our start time. We made our jumps for each hour of the elapsed time. We filled in those times leading up into the end of my number line and found our end time. Let's look at another example. Number 2 is where we're missing the elapsed time. It says, what is the elapsed time between 6:45 in the morning and 10:45 in the morning? So we know we have a start time here of 6:45. It's in the morning, so it's a.m. So we're starting at 6:45 a.m. Put that in my chart. Then we are going until 10:45 in the morning. So I put my end time as 10:45 a.m. here. So what I'm missing in my chart is the elapsed time, how much time passed. So I'm going to take a little different approach to my number line this time. I'm going to put my number line here with my start time of 6:45, and then I am going to write my hours 1 hour at a time from 6:45 until I get to my end time of 10:45. So this time I am filling in my hours first. So I write in 6:45, 7:45, 8:45, 9:45, 10:45. Now, if 10:45 is my end time, I don't need to go any further than that. Now, to find my answer is going to be how many jumps I had to make to get from my start time to my end time. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. I made 4 jumps. Each jump is 1 hour. So my elapsed time is 4 hours, and that would complete my chart. All right, let's do another one here. This is where our start time is missing. What if the start time, what is the start time, if the end time is 7:56 p.m. and the elapsed time is 5 hours? So I have my end time right here, 7:56 p.m., got that on my chart. And the elapsed time is 5 hours. 5 hours is on my chart. So this, we're going to take a little bit different approach from the other 2 questions we've done so far. We're going to make our number line, but this kind of reminds me of when we do division on the number line, where we have to start at the end of the number line and we work our way back. Because we have the end time here, I would make my number line and I would put 7:56 here at the end. Now, I don't know what time this event started at. That's what I'm trying to find. So I can't fill in all the times on my number line yet. But I do know it's lasting 5 hours, so I know I'm going to have 5 jumps. So I would put 7:56 right here, and then I would go ahead and do my jumps. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. So I've filled in my jumps to match my elapsed time. Now I need to go in and fill in the times on my number line. So I ended my event at 7:56, but I am jumping back an hour. So an hour earlier than that would be 6:56. Another hour earlier, 5:56. Another earlier, 4:56. Earlier still, 3:56. And then finally, the 5th hour earlier puts me at 2:56. That's going to be my answer. That is my start time for this event. Start time of 2:56 p.m. So you can see the difference between these 3 models. For the one where I'm missing the end time, I put in my start time. I count my jumps according to the elapsed time, and where I end is going to be my end time. When I'm missing the elapsed time, I put in my start time, I put in my end time and fill in between those 2, count my jumps, that's going to be my elapsed time. Then finally, if I'm missing the start time, I need to put the end time at the end of my number line, and I need to count my jumps for my elapsed time backwards. Then fill in my missing times and find what that start time was. All right, let's look at some other examples that we had on the second page of our notes. Okay, so number 4 says, what is the end time? Okay, so we're looking for the end time. What is the end time? I'm going to put a question mark there. If the start time is 2:25 in the afternoon and the elapsed time is 3 hours. Okay, so I do have a start time, 2:25, and it's in the afternoon, so that means it's PM. And my elapsed time is 3 hours. I'm going to put 3 hours in here. Okay. Now they gave me a number line with nothing on it, so I'm going to go ahead and make use of that. So since I do know my start time, I'm going to fill in 2:25, and I know I need to take 3 jumps because that's my elapsed time. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Got my elapsed time. Now to find this end time here where I landed, I have to fill in my number line. So an hour after 2:25 would be 3:25. Then we go to 4:25, and then it would be 5:25. So here is my end time. It would be 5:25, and it's PM. Alrighty? Let's take a look at number 5. What is the elapsed time between 2:40 p.m. and 11:40 p.m.? Give you a second to think about what strategy would you use to solve this problem. All right, well, hopefully you notice that you're looking for the elapsed time because it says, what is the elapsed time? So that's what we're missing here. So between 2:40 p.m. and 11:40 p.m. So 2:40 p.m. is our start time. And 11:40 p.m. is our end time. Now they didn't give us the number line this time, so we got to do it ourselves. That's okay. That's pretty easy, right? So when I have a start time and an end time, that means I'm going to fill out my whole number line because I have all the information for the number line. So I'm starting at 2:40, and I've got to go all the way to 11. I feel like that's kind of far, so I'm going to put these kind of close together. 3:40, 4:40, 5:40, 6:40, 7:40, 8:40, 9:40, 10:40, and 11:40 is where it ends. Whoops. Good thing I did put those close together. That took up all the room on my number line. So now we're trying to figure out how long is it from this start time to this end time. So what do we need to do? What are we going to count to find the elapsed time? If you said we need to count the jumps between the start time and the end time, then you'd be correct. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 hours is our elapsed time. It took us 9 jumps down our number line to get from 2:40 to 11:40.